What is up, everyone? I'm Austin Smith, and welcome back to another episode of Just a Minute with Justin Young. And as y'all can see, the guy next to me on that screen is none other than our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen, Justin Young. JY, back at it again for another episode, brother. How are we feeling this week?
I'm feeling a little refreshed, but if we had this conversation on Monday, Austin, I would have been a zombie because I was exhausted. We put together probably 1,800 games in 3 days at the Grassroots Showcase. So I was a little tired. Yeah. But, man, as you know, in this business, you got to wake up and do it all over again, getting ready for the next event. But I'm fired up to talk about last weekend, and also just always fired up to talk to you, Austin, about what we got going on.
Bro, well, let's go ahead and get right to it, man. I think this is the perfect time to do so. Grassroots Showcase, an incredible event, JY. Go ahead and tell us firsthand, man, what was the overall experience like in Louisville, Kentucky last weekend?
Okay, so do you remember Best of South 2 years ago, downtown Atlanta, at the World Congress Center?
Absolutely.
And, like, your head was just, like, on a swivel, and you're just constantly, like, looking around, like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. Times two. And so it was bananas, man. Like, you stood in the middle of the Kentucky Expo Center, and you look, up and down or left and right, whichever way. There were just courts and courts and courts. And then the best part was that you heard teams say this a lot, like, man, if you keep going all the way down there and you take a left, there's even more courts. Like, their heads were exploding. And mine was as well. And then on top of that, we had games over at Freedom Hall throughout the event, which was amazing to think about. We're playing games where the most Final Fours have ever been played. We're playing games where Muhammad Ali's fought a boxing match. We're playing games where some of the best players of all time have ever played. And so that was really a special thing, I think. What's funny is I don't know if a lot of kids really appreciated, like, the level of history that we were involved with playing over there at Freedom Hall. But, it was funny, Austin. I thought collectively – there was an exhale within the industry that weekend. There were events happening all over the country. And I think everybody was, like, really excited to get back to what we believe is normal. And I think this is a good preview as to, like, what we can expect for July. So it's high level, big time events and big time productions. I thought it was just pure class all around. And the folks in Kentucky couldn't have been even any nicer or more hospitable, as well as our partners we had with NY to LA and Ohio basketball, which was a really important partnership. I think not only for us, but for the industry and the teams that we serve. So all in all, man, I thought it was a raving success.
Man, absolutely. One thing I want to add too, JY, you talked about the players being able to really take advantage and appreciation of the history.
Yeah.
You had historic courts they were playing on too. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool myself.
I didn't know that was going to be the case. When we were setting up, like, walking around, like, I was, like, snapping all these pictures. Like, if you're a hoop head, like, you can appreciate, like, some of the stuff. Like, it was really cool. And so just to, like, give you some background, the Kentucky Expo Center, they get a new court every year. And so, like, we had, like, with some of our featured games, if you want to call it, we're on the Indiana State court, which it wasn't the same court where Larry Bird played, but, like, that was cool. We had a Clemson court.
Yep.
We had a Kentucky court. We had the Lakeland Center. So some of our teams from Florida, where they used to play state championship games at the Lakeland Center, and some other older courts that we had. NC State court, Bellarmine Eaton plays their games at Freedom Hall. But yeah, it was really cool to see all these courts and to think about who's been on there. Some of these wooden courts, and of course we had just courts all over the place in that building. But you're right, and what's cool too, Austin, is there were some players that played that past weekend. We'll talk about it a little bit later, that they can add their names now to this lineage of players that have also played on those courts, which is also pretty special if you think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, JY, moving along. Okay, so our HSA teams had an incredible weekend. I think we talked about before air. I think it was 80-52 overall record, 6 undefeated HSA teams. JY, dive into that for us real quick.
Yeah, so one of the things that we want to do is take HoopSeen Association teams and pair them up with NY to LA teams. What these leagues are, what these associations are, is essentially a collection of the top independent teams from our region, particularly in the Southeast, with NY to LA, particularly in the Midwest. And we're also working with the Hoop Group for our event that we're going to have down in Orlando at the end of the summer. So some of the top independent teams they have up and down the Eastern Seaboard, which I think is really important that we have these types of pairings, because teams in the South have a chance to play teams that they won't play any other opportunity, with the exception of these big time events. And so we really were curious, how good are our teams going to stack up against teams from the Midwest, teams that are a lot different style of play that our teams are used to playing, a little bit more slowed down, a little bit more systematic, really, really well-coached teams. Our teams are also really well-coached, but I think sometimes the South maybe gets pigeonholed as, oh, they're really good athletes, and that's kind of how they maybe win some matchups.
Right.
And it was really cool. Like, how is this gonna play itself out? So I didn't know what to expect. Ty didn't know what to expect. Daniel didn't know what to expect. And we kind of went into it like, hey, let's take our top teams that based on our record that we already have, and let's match them up with comparable. And like you mentioned, 80-52 was a tremendously successful weekend for teams in the HoopSeen Association, our first year of existence, which I think really goes to show how talented this groups of teams that we have put together really are. That Ty Young did a tremendous job. I think we have about 40 or so teams within our association. And it was great to see them compete against teams from Michigan and Wisconsin and Indiana and Ohio and Iowa and all different places that our teams have never really, with the exception of maybe an event here, an event there every other year, that they just don't get a chance to play. And so to walk away from that weekend, I thought was really good. I talked to a team. Who did I talk to about this? Oh, it was our friends from the house, 1600 team. He said, we went 1-3 on the weekend, but we're leaving here feeling really, really good because our teams had a chance to play some high level teams. And I really felt like we got a lot better. So like they had a losing record per se, but they felt like that was a huge growth opportunity for their guys to go out there and compete against high level players and against players and teams that they don't ever really get a chance to see. So I thought that was important to really give us an idea and an indication to the strength of the talent that we have within the HoopSeen Association. So I'm really, really happy for our programs that have been with us all season.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. JY, again, you talk about the matchups that were there. You talked about the HSA teams that showed out. I mean, 6 of them went undefeated. And I think that alone by itself, you talked about the strength of the association. That alone by itself proves volumes, speaks volumes, in fact, to how good these association teams really are.
There was some separation. We've talked about it every week here on the Just a Minute segment, like JY's unofficial eye test power rankings. They kind of fell in line, so I feel pretty good about my eye test power rankings. Okay, feel real good. I feel real justified about what I got. But when you look at the teams, so Florida Pro, we matched them up with some pretty high level teams. I think they played actually a couple of UIBL teams. They got some dubs in those. They went 4-0. Once again, the Thompson twins were trending. Let's not forget about Taylor Hendricks, who I thought was awesome, averaged about 20 points a game for Florida Pro. Really took care of business. They, to me, remain at top of our independent rankings. I would argue that they're probably one of the top 20 teams in the country, to be quite honest with you, maybe even better than that. They're starting to stack together a resume that would justify such a belief system. But then you look at the Atlanta All-Stars. They were tremendous this weekend. They went 4-0. They did what they do, man. They're balanced. They defend really, really, really well. So to walk out of this event being 4-0, I think is a huge accomplishment given the schedule that those guys had, and did a really, really good job of coming out of here 4-0. Who else was 4-0? Oh, CP25, Alabama, Mississippi. We talk about them every week. And I think they get better every week.
Hey, dude, that is key. That is true.
Yeah. And development is really fantastic. Jabari McGee, again, continues to be one of the hottest prospects within our association. He tore it up once again up in where do we go? Kentucky. Sorry, I had to think about where we're headed. They didn't have Trey Dixon. They're really talented point guard, so Jabari had to really step up. They walked out of there 4-0, which I thought was important. Wow. Core 4 also 4-0. Terrific job. Coach Daryl LeBerry, a good friend of ours, he works all of our preview camps, and a colleague of mine for 2 decades. I love him to death. Has really done a great job of coaching up that team. Their guard play, I thought, was as good as any team that we had from the HSA coming out of there 4-0. Who else do we have that went 4-0? Atlanta Timberwolves White continue their hot streak. Aiden Holloway is about as steady of a guy, 20-10 guy, I think, that we've got within the HSA. Who else went 4-0? Core 4, talked about them. Man, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Bang Up went 4-0.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, they had Dana Woodley from Virginia, I think one of the best unsigned seniors, who I think is probably like a premier junior college target, has been blowing up. They've been 8-0 since they've added him to the record. So 2 back-to-back weekends of 4-0 records. So you look at the strength of those teams to come out of there. That has a lot to do with the fact that we were, 80-52. That's just tremendous job. And then other teams like the Hawks Elite had a great weekend. They were 3-1, and even teams like Team Spates, who we matched them up with some heavy hitters. Yeah. They went 2-2. But I've been talking to college coaches nonstop about their players. Jamar Franklin, I'm gonna tell you right now, Austin, we've been talking about him before. I think he's probably one of the hottest guards in the Southeast right now. Terrific weekend. And the head coaches now are starting to reach out like, hey, who's this dude? So big time success, I think, all around.
Man, that's awesome, man. Awesome for all those teams, man. Shout out to the HSA, man. That's awesome news to hear. Jay,
Also, one more thing. I didn't have it. In fact, I think it might be the laundry. Dang it, I should have wore it. But we got some HSA shirts out there now. You'll see them. Bob Gibbons, take a look. You're like, oh, okay, they're part of that group. So yeah, it was cool to kind of see that around the gym. Guys were taking it up, warming up in those shirts.
Oh, that's
but we'll
dope.
see those around the building for sure around Bob Gibbons next month.
That's dope. But yeah, I need one. I need to get one.
You do need one. Yeah, you do need one.
All right, so look, Jay, well, we got a lot of content on our site right now, clearly about Ben and players and everything. But hey, we've got the top performers list. And I think the top performers list, man, is one that everybody is like has their eyeballs glued to each and every weekend.
Yeah.
But speaking of that top performers list, we had some players in the matchup games last week in Louisville who made that list, and players who kind of boosted their stock nationally. Talk about some of those national stock risers, JY, in the class of 2022 from last week.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about that. Like, it was a good opportunity for me particularly. I think I've done a pretty good job of getting out all over the country over the last 12 months and seeing places. Well, one place I haven't really spent much time with is the Midwest. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of teams from the Midwest that came down. Phenom University was one of those teams that I just absolutely couldn't stop watching. I thought Seth Trimble, their point guard, a lot of people told me he's probably the best point guard in the Midwest. I would argue he's probably one of the top 10 point guards now in the country. He was clutch, man. They had 2 games that went literally down to the very wire. Against Team Thad, I thought it was probably one of the 3 best games we had in the weekend. Everyone, it was packed. It felt like Zion Williamson games over at Lake Point that we had, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, where you just like, guys are like, you trying to get your head in between gaps so you can see, Yeah. Guys like you that are a little, vertically challenged, man. Y'all were like, oh, man, come on. It sounded like I was like, me and Daniel Paccioni was like 7'9" or standing in the back, no problem. So, but he was awesome. Had an and one play off of a rebound off of a free throw, won the game in the final second, like big time plays. So you see a guy like Seth Trimble, who was already a nationally rated guy, I thought used the stage and elevated himself even more. I mean, even our guys, the Thompson twins of the HSA. I know a couple of the national pundits put them out there as top 25 guys. We've been saying that for quite a while. It's kind of cool to see everybody else kind of catch up to that opinion, but they didn't differ from that. They didn't change that narrative. Somebody go, oh, I don't know if they're that good. So it was really good for them, I think, to match them up with some teams to really kind of stamp their approval on those guys. Team Thad is a team that I love from top to bottom. They've got probably 9 high-level dudes on that team that I think every one of those guys did a tremendous job of raising their stock and their profile. Man, JL3, we're going to have them at Bob Gibbons out of Texas.
Oh,
Austin, bro. They were the best, I thought, top to bottom, biggest. They're nasty, man. Just nasty. Bryce Griggs, a guard for them, was fantastic. Big Vince. And Vince, if you're watching, I'm not trying to hurt your last name, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it.
Yeah,
Big Vince was out there working. Yeah, so, I mean, we could talk about every one of their guys in their roster. I mean, they were a tremendous, tremendous team. So I think there are a lot of players that, again, I see all these national lists, and I have a real hard time, like, kind of comprehending them because it's been so hard to get out there and see everybody like what we're used to. So you're kind of taking little bits and pieces and putting it up on the bulletin board and remembering that, oh, yeah, that guy's pretty good. So, like, at least that's how I'm doing. So we haven't put out a national list because I'm not comfortable with saying, like, this is a national opinion because we haven't seen the nation. Now, this event has given us a really good shot of seeing those guys. I think the Northeast is really the last category, at least for me in our national ratings, that I can't do that yet. And we will, though, I think after Orlando when we have the hoop group teams come down for that event that we've got coming on. But overall, though, I thought there were a lot of guys. If you go to hoopseen.com, check out our overall top national performers and follow me on social media at Justin D. Young or at HoopSeenJY on Instagram. You can see all my top performers, the guys that I thought really raised their profile on a national level. But of course, our Warriors of Justin Byerly, Breonna Patton, Josh Tech, they've done a tremendous job of covering everybody else that we had in the field. I say everybody else, that sounds like there's a difference. There was so much to cover that I just I'm still watching. I'll be watching film for 2 weeks for the games that I've missed, because there were so many games. So, but anyways, yeah, I mean, there were a number of guys that I think raised their profile that we're going to have you covered on HoopSeen. And college coaches, do me a favor, just go over there, become an insider. You're going to want to know that stuff. And if you see HSA top performer, I'm telling you right now, those are the guys that are winning games in March Madness. And people say, where do these guys come from? These are the players.
Right.
These are the guys each and every year that are top performers at our events that are the guys that are beating, high level teams in March.
Yep.
Every single season. So if you really want to get a one up and stop looking at the transfer wire, because heads up, there's some really, really good players in the high school level. Yeah. They're the top performers from the HSA.
Oh, HSA keeps the ball rolling, JY. You love to see
it. Absolutely does. Absolutely it does.
Jay, let's go ahead and take our out of July. Your phone has been ringing off the hook. You gotta tell us, brother, what's going down.
Yeah, so when I was coming home from the airport on Monday, I talked to a college coach, about the event. And he's like, hey, listen, man, I think we're finally going to start recruiting high school guys more because the transfer wire is starting to kind of wrap up a little bit. We're starting to get narrow, which means there's probably only like 800 guys now instead of like 1,400 guys. Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting. And he's right. Like, my phone's been ringing more than it ever has been. And that seems to be the case. We keep talking every Wednesday more and more and more, when more coaches are starting to reach back out about high school guys, which gets me really excited. Like you said, our eye to July. We know that we have an NCAA live period. We know that the best of South's going to be popping in downtown Atlanta. We know the shoe companies are going to be going hard and trying to do what's best for their players. Everybody's in that same boat.
Right.
And I know the college guys are really excited to get back out because they're like so tired of watching film. They want to see it. They want to cooperate with what they've seen online, and they want to be able to pair that up with what's in realistic and what's in real life. So I think that's the thing that's going to be really important as we have that eye to July, what is going to be fact and what's going to be fiction. And I hope for us, what we're trying to set up is that there's a long list of players that they're trying to go see in person that they can go, oh, okay, that justifies or the interest that I have in that guy. It's starting to ramp back up slowly but surely. Still be patient. I also talked to another staff. They're like, hey, did you like anybody for us this weekend? I'm thinking they're talking about the class of 2022. So I rattle off, a handful of names. And then he was like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant class of 21.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of schools that are still trying to fill a lot of roster spots for the class of 21. So if you're a class of 23 player, just enjoy yourself. Just have fun with it, man. Just be patient, because guess what? Your time will come. It may not be right now, because we still have programs that are still recruiting for the class of 21. But then now 22 is really starting to rise up. And I think that's starting to really kind of formulate itself. Or even 2 weeks ago, we talked about talking to kids I don't know what's happening in my recruitment. We're starting to see that now kind of come into focus for some guys. So I think that's really important.
Hey, man. Wow. That last one, I'm still stuck on that, JY. Looking at 20, man. Guys, keep working. That's the more.
Keep working. Yeah, keep working. Yeah, for sure.
Working. So, JY, last segment, man of the day.
Sure.
What is next? We've got a lot coming up in the summer remaining on the calendar. What's next, brother?
Bob Gibbons. That's what's next, man. The most storied stage in travel basketball is going to be back to Swanee Sports Academy. I was talking to Ty yesterday and Daniel in our weekly meeting. We're getting close to selling out, and we have a limited capacity like we have been. We're still trying to get more courts, and I feel pretty good about getting some more. But, we've got really big groups that are signing up, 7, 8, 9, 10 programs at a time, which really closes that gap really, really quick. So people always ask, when's the deadline to register? I don't like to answer that question, because we sell out of every event that we do.
Right.
And so if the deadline is I don't know, May 1st, let's just use that as a hypothetical, we're going to sell out probably before that hits. Right. And so if you want to be a part of the biggest stage in travel basketball, go get it locked in right now, because we're going to sell that out probably in the next, well, I don't even want to say the time, because people may say this at different times, but it'll happen really, really quick. Yeah, it'll happen really quick. So that's up next. But man, I think all of our staff, we got really excited about Atlanta in July after going to Kentucky for the Grassroots Showcase, to think about what we can do in downtown Atlanta with the Georgia World Congress Center, what we built upon a couple of years ago, and just getting bigger and better and stronger. And so if you're a team from out west, if you're a team from the Midwest that's not familiar with us, that your first experience was seeing us, if you're part of the NY to LA, know that when you come to Atlanta with the NY to LA Association, we got you covered, man. We got Southern hospitality. We want you to come down here. Let's experience that even again. And let's also have high level competition that you experience from the weekend. And the kicker of all of it, college coaches are back. And they're back. And I told so many guys, man, coming home from that trip, I wish you guys could have been there. It was so good. It was so important. Such a great evaluation stage. I think what we learned as far as the matchups we did in April, I think will really set the stage really, really well for July for Best of the South. So registration's open. We got a ton of room. I don't know. I hope we sell out of that, but 700 plus teams is a lot. But we're going to fill that place up. We do have a cap. We don't have an open ending space. We do have a cap for that because of how many courts that we have to work with. But if you want to be a part of the stage that is going to benefit your players the absolute most, if you're an independent program, there's no other option other than the Best of South. It's that simple. And I'm not saying that because it's our event. I'm saying that because I'm a guy that's been in this business for 20 years. And I hope that I built my career upon just speaking the truth. That's the God's honest truth. Right. There's no better stage than the Best of the South for your program in July because of the things that it can do for your players. We see that year in and year out. And I think everything that we've done up to this point sets the stage for what should be a miraculous July for our teams.
JY, facts speak for themselves, brother. Best of the South place to be. Everyone, don't forget, register for Bob Gibbons now. You can do so at hoopseen.com/events.
Yep.
And that wraps up another episode. Everyone, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Austin Smith, your HoopSeen host. And as always, this is Just a Minute featuring HoopSeen Editor-In-Chief, Mr. Justin Young. JY, thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks, Austin. See you next week.